Hey guys, what's up? Today we're going to be talking about the 1958 movie Touch of Evil and its new Kino Lorber 4K release that just came out. So let's talk. In February of 1958, Touch of Evil was released to the world, and it is written and starring Orson Welles, and it is also, believe it or not, directed by Orson Welles, who is one of our most famous directors of all time. He is the director and writer of Citizen Kane, which for a long time topped the AFI's Top 100's movie list, which has now been overtaken by Vertigo. But there is a new list that should be coming out this year. We'll see if Citizen Kane can get its way back. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Touch of Evil. And Orson Welles plays Police Sergeant Hank Quinlan, and he is basically investigating a car bombing that happens at the beginning of the movie, and he is trying to figure out who planted the bomb. And somebody else takes a special interest in the case, who is on his honeymoon with his wife, Janet Leigh, played by Charlton Heston, and that character's name is Ramon Vargas, and his wife's name is Susan Vargas, who is again played by Janet Leigh. So this movie, I'm going to be talking full spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie, please come back after and check out my thoughts on the movie, and then you can also check out my thoughts on the 4K. So again, full spoilers. So this movie is probably most famous for its opening tracking shot scene where it's all one take. It is very famous. It inspired many different tracking shots, including the one in 1992's The Player. So that's actually pretty cool. And let me just say, this is the first time I've seen this movie, and that tracking shot does live up to all the hype that it promised. But obviously this movie came out in 1958, so you can expect that there is a lot of, technology is holding this movie back as far as what they could do. So in 1958, that tracking shot is even more unbelievable. I don't have a negative thing to say about that. It's incredible. It is definitely one of the coolest tracking shots. I am glad I finally got to see it. Never even looked it up. This is my first time watching it, so it was great to see it. It was really cool, very well done. Not a shocker. This movie has some amazing cinematography, which again, not a shocker knowing Orson Welles, because if you've seen Citizen Kane, that is considered one of the movies that really modernized how to do lighting and shooting, and it's incredible. And this movie is no different. It's a noir story, so it's got a lot of use of shadows and things being done in the shadows and use of lighting. That's what noir stories are most known for, especially before we got to color with a lot of the neo-noirs. So this is a very special movie. It is considered one of the best noir films of all time. And I'm here to tell you that it definitely is. It does feel dated. I can't give this a world-renowned review. I mean, I know it's considered one of the best noir stories ever, but for me, this is a very old movie, and I'm coming to it now. I can definitely see the influence on other movies, but I wasn't in love with this movie while watching. I appreciated it a lot. As the story progressed, I definitely got more involved in it. You could see this influence of this movie on movies that came later, like Chinatown. It felt very Chinatown-esque, and I love that, but the story didn't captivate me like Chinatown. Chinatown is one of my top 10 favorite movies ever. I'm a big noir freak, so I definitely love this movie, but not as much as I would love like a movie like Chinatown. But this movie, I could see the influence. I appreciated the story, but the story kind of unfolded how I thought it would, and it was very predictable because I just kind of saw how it was going. But that really shouldn't take away from it. Again, like I said, it's a 1958 movie, and it is so well done, and Orson Welles is one of our greatest directors ever. This movie he directed in 1958, but after in post, he didn't get to make the movie he wanted to make. They took it from him. They put out the movie that they wanted to. They wanted the movie to be more conventional with how studio releases were. Orson Welles was very ahead of his time. Anyone who knows Orson Welles and has looked into him knows that he's always fought with studios. If he was around now, it would be a totally different ballgame. Orson Welles wanted creative control. Back then, studios had total final edit, final cut. It was very hard for him to get that. He signed that deal with RKO that put out his first few movies, and that was a big disaster. I'm sure you can look into all that. And, studios just took the movie from him. He wrote a whole, I believe it was 58-page essay about what he wanted and what his vision was, and that's why we actually have two other cuts of the movie. A 1976 version and a 1998 version, which follows what he wanted and what his thoughts of what the movie was supposed to be. Now let's get into the characters. Orson Welles plays his character great. I loved it. It just shows he's also an amazing actor. He is a police sergeant, and I didn't really know, like, I expected him to be the hero, and he is definitely the antagonist. He plays a drunk. He's 12 years sober, but he's, you know, they make comments about all the weight he's put on and all that stuff, and he just seems like a miserable man, and they portray him as a dirty cop. But a dirty cop who believes he's doing the right thing because his wife had been strangled. And that's pretty much what sends him on this downward spiral. And his partner seems to understand that, and he seems to care about him. But he always believed that what he was doing was just. And when this movie progresses, and you get everything with Vargas and and Sanchez, who he's trying to put the blame on for the bombing in the beginning of the movie, which ironically, he turns out to be right about, and I thought that was a nice little twist. Then they put a line in there that says, like, he's a great detective, but he's a lousy cop, and that is 100% true. He plants the convicting evidence at a lot of these crime scenes, and that's basically what Vargas has dug up on him, and that he's been doing this for years. And unfortunately, his partner has been, you know, compliant with what he's doing. Either he turned the blind eye to him, or he just is helping. It doesn't seem like he's helping because he totally does a 180 and helps Vargas get the evidence, the incriminating evidence on him to put him away, or in this case, you know, show like, hey man, like why, like what are you doing? Like, and it's hard. Like, this is a movie where they put gray area in. That's what makes a great noir story. You know, nobody really is, you know, a goody two-shoes kind of person. You might go as far as to say like maybe Vargas is, but I don't think so. I think that, you know, that's what a beautiful noir story is. You know, you get a lot of, like, you know, dips and dives, and this is like a mystery, you know, it's just unwinding. You know, the movie starts one way, and it ends a completely different way where you didn't anticipate it. There's just so much twist, and it's a really well done one on top of that, and that's what I love about a good noir story. And this is definitely one of the better ones, and I can see why it is one of the most famous ones. Now, a couple negatives, again, 1958, so Charlton Heston, who is one of the greatest actors we've ever had, one of the most famous from the 50s and 60s in such movies as Ben-Hur and The Ten Commandments and Planet of the Apes. And if you noticed, Charlton Heston is a white man, so he is playing a Mexican in this movie. In 2022, or even in the past few years, that would never happen, but this did happen pretty frequently back then. So that, you know, I'm not going to say that took me out of it, but it definitely was noticeable at points, and I just want to let you guys know that that did happen, that Charlton Heston is playing a Mexican person in this movie, just so you're aware. Other things that kind of are cool to notice about in this movie that, you know, would never happen in 2022, so he's got to keep the recorder, and he's got the microphone on him, but Vargas has to stay close by, so there's an echo, and that's how Orson Welles gets tipped off, or, you know, gets tipped off to what is going on, how they're trying to incriminate him. And it's actually very, very cool how they did that. You know, that's something that, you know, with the modern technology, a lot of the stuff in this movie just would never happen. But it was so cool to see it then, and I like that. That's one thing I like about going back to the classics that I've never seen. You get to, it really is like getting in a time machine and seeing what the world was like. And see what the world was like in the 50s on the, you know, on the American-Mexican border there. It was so cool to see. I really did appreciate that. I had a lot of fun with it, that's for sure. But overall, as the story was progressing, I definitely could say it was a little slow in the beginning, but it really took off in the second half. I really enjoyed it. Everyone's performance was great. Janet Leigh, Jamie Lee Curtis's mother, was in this. It was really cool to see her in a different role than what I've usually seen her in before. So that was fun. I really had a good time with this. I had a good time with this story, with this movie in general. I'm definitely going to go back and make sure I watch the other two versions, because I only watched one version, and that was the 1998 version. That's what I watched for this, and that's what my review is going to be based on. So if I'm going to give a score for the film only, I'm going to give this movie, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. Like I said, I've heard this is one of the greatest movies of all time, but it does feel dated for obvious reasons. And I just gotta be honest, you know, like, it's not one of my favorite movies ever, but I definitely enjoyed it. I am definitely glad that I picked up this 4K. I will be rewatching it. It's gonna go into the rotation, so like I said, definitely, if you haven't seen this, just go watch this movie. So Kino Lorber, who actually puts out a lot of classic movies on 4K, they're really keeping the classics alive on 4K. I wanted to point out that I bought this. It's my first time ever seeing it, and What a beautiful slipcover that they have for this, for Touch of Evil. There was one thing that I had, I guess it was in a shipping issue, but my paper was like kind of like half out, so like the bottom paper was kind of hanging out and it kind of got clipped and then there's a little bit of a rip on the bottom. You know, some of that stuff does happen with shipping and it, you know, it's a little disappointing. I got it through Best Buy, so things like that do happen. I got kind of OCD about all that, but other than that, you know, I don't have a complaint as far as packaging goes. It's your basic slip cover over the box art. You know, it's got all 3 versions in that. I actually wanted to point that out. All 3 versions have been remastered in 4K. So you get the regular Touch of Evil theatrical version, which is right here. And then underneath that, you get the reconstructed version, as they call it. That's the 1998 version. It's this reconstructed version. That's the version I watched yesterday. And then they also have right over here the preview version, which came out in the 70s. Now, what made me choose the reconstruction version is I did my research and they said that that is the version to watch. I will go back and watch the other 2. I'm not going to do that yet, but I have. But I do like that all 3 versions are remastered in 4K in this packaging. Not a huge fan of like when they put a disc on top of another disc. I understand that they say it won't scratch, but I would prefer if it was like that middle book part where you flip it and there's another disc instead so that they're never touching each other. But that's personal preference. Some people might not get bothered by that. It does kind of bother me a little bit. The discs look great, so as far as packaging goes. And just a quick note on the extras, there's not too many. Each disc has a different main extra on it, like a featurette talking about the movie. One's like 17 minutes and one's like 20 minutes. So and then there's another featurette on the 3rd disc. So their extras are really spread out. That was very unique. I've never seen that. Usually they usually jumble them all up on one extra Blu-ray disc, or the Blu-ray would feature it like Criterion does. So just keep an eye out for that. You're going to have to put each disc in if you're a big extras fan. Just make sure you're doing that. And then let's move on to visuals, because this is where Kino Lorber killed it. 4K visuals for this movie are great. Yes, it's in black and white, and I can see why people might not think that that's worth an upgrade. I can tell you for a matter of fact that it is definitely worth an upgrade if you have a different version of this. This is going to be the prime packaging. If you're a fan of Touch of Evil, this is the version to get as far as visuals go. It is incredible. Black and white really pops. If you've seen The Lighthouse from a few years ago, black and white can be done beautifully. This is the best black and white I have seen. I haven't checked out the Citizen Kane 4K yet, but right now, this is the best 4K Blu-ray with black and white that I have personally seen, beating out Dr. Strangelove that came in actually one of my Columbia Classics over here in Volume 1. That, at the time of this recording, was my favorite 4K to feature in black and white, but now I can honestly say that this is my favorite black and white film. The black and white pops so beautifully. It looks like it was filmed in 2022 with an artistic choice to film it in black and white. Yes, color was around, Technicolor was around in the 50s, but that wasn't a choice that Orson Welles made. He chose to film it in black and white, and he had a lot of success, obviously, with Citizen Kane in black and white. So it is really, really good. It really pops, and like I said, all 3 versions are remastered in 4K. So if you have a preference, all 3 of them are here. All 3 of them are remastered in 4K. Just to note, there are only 4K discs in this, so if you were looking to buy this for the Blu-ray discs, no Blu-rays. All 3 discs, 4K. So as far as audio, it's really nothing special. It's a 1958 movie, that's to be expected. You know, I think it was using 2.1 stereo. So that's fine. I didn't expect to get a Dolby Atmos track. There is Dolby Vision on here, but there is no Dolby Atmos, and that's to be expected. Don't go in this for if you're an audiophile expecting like Blade Runner's like Atmos track on here. That's none of that. You know, you're going on this, I really feel like, for the 4K visual upgrade, and whatever price you can get this at, if you get it on sale, you get it at full price. I can fully recommend this packaging of Touch of Evil. It is amazing. It blew my mind as far as visuals go. And overall with the film, it's a good film, the audio is great, and again, just having all 3 versions remastered in 4K, I can't explain to you how amazing that they did that. Usually you get like one. I mean, Apocalypse Now did that with all their versions of it too, so that's just something that I really appreciate when a studio does that, and it should be just commended. I would appreciate that as a collector if more studios did that. We didn't get just bare bones packaging. Some effort and love, and that's not a surprise. Kino Lorber is one of the better 4K boutique studios that we have up there, like Arrow Video and Criterion. Like, you support them. They're a small studio. They put so much effort in. So if you're a collector, definitely Touch of Evil. I'm going to give the whole packaging, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Like, you know, it's not a huge audio upgrade, the extras aren't great, but for visuals alone and for the movie, definitely worth your time and hard-earned money, I promise you. 8.5 out of 10. Make sure you guys run out and grab that. If you guys like my 4K reviews, please comment below if there's any you want me to review. Definitely, I'm always looking for recommendations and new movies to see. So if there's anything out there that you're like, hey, check this out, I'll check it out. I'm definitely always down to give something a try, at least once. So definitely comment below, I'll review it for you. And make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. And you tell all your friends. Hey guys, just wanted to pop in quick for your Friday giveaway question. So this week we're going to be giving away the digital code to Casino, and that's the digital code that came with the 4K that we reviewed on this channel. So this week's question, because I just did a review for Touch of Evil, and if you stuck around, this is what you saw. I wanted to ask what everyone's favorite classic movie is. So I'll be nice, and I will say, what is your favorite classic movie that came out before the year of 1980? So before the year of 1980, what is your favorite classic movie? All you have to do is answer that question in the comment section below. If you guys come back for Monday's video, we do a random draw with a magic wheel that will pick a winner, and if you are the lucky winner, we will contact you and give you that digital code. And then guys, we're also doing a 500 subscribers giveaway. Once we reach that, we will be giving away the Godfather 4K trilogy to one lucky winner. Again, random draw, big magic wheel. All you gotta do is be a subscriber and you're automatically entered. So keep track of our channel and what we're doing so you can keep track of all these giveaways. And as always guys, thanks for sticking around with me for this extra little part of the video. And always make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe and tell your friends.